we're going to show you a picture of Mark Cuban, and in this picture, he actually just got asked for a second kiss by his cousin on Thanksgiving. Yeah, that explains that.
That's a fitting picture.
All right, it's another week. We're back with 2 nukes. I am Chris, and that's yeah. Again,
Go with that.
1,000 subs, you get to know his name. Until then, I don't want to hear it. By the way, why don't you sub? We're going to do this every single week. We have a lot of fun with it.
Click the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, but please just subscribe. Like, if nothing else, give us a sub. You're going to be here next week anyway. You might as well get notified.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off. Yeah, I know. And it's it's hard to segue into a story.
It is.
So, especially one like this. This one doesn't really fit. However, Mark Cuban blasts Joe Rogan and Elon Musk over vaccination and a big pharma debate that Joe Rogan had on his show. So we're going to show you a picture of Mark Cuban, and in this picture, he actually just got asked for a second kiss by his cousin on Thanksgiving. Yeah, that explains
That's
that
a
weird.
fitting picture.
That explains the weird look on his face. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to talk about this story. Mark Cuban, in my opinion, accurately calls out Joe Rogan for pretending to be some doctor and having some kind of high level of knowledge, when the truth is these vaccines that he's saying didn't work did in fact work. They did lots of good for people, and we did see deaths drop among the vaccinated population. I don't know what else you would have wanted.
To be allowed to talk about the negatives?
Talking about the negatives is one thing.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you're not allowed to.
You definitely can talk about the negatives.
No.
What you can't do
You
is
get
just
crucified.
make it up.
Well, you can't make it up, but if you even bring it up, you usually get crucified.
But these things that they're talking about are made up. So
Oh, I haven't seen the full debate, so I don't know exactly what was said.
So it came from Joe Rogan's recent podcast with Robert Kennedy.
Right.
Now, you may know Robert Kennedy as that idiot who sometimes speaks, but we allow to vote on things in Washington. It's really stupid. But he's a prominent anti-vaxxer, Robert Kennedy. He's gone on to say things like, we're still waiting for these vaccines to trigger and kill myself and everyone else that took it, right? Because we're all going to die. And it was supposed to happen in 2021, and we didn't die. So I don't know. At what point is it supposed to happen now?
I don't know.
Right, because it's not going to happen. Because he's an idiot, and Joe Rogan shouldn't be talking to him like he's not an idiot. I don't care if you're an elected official. You're still allowed to be stupid. Trump was in the White House for 4 years. You could be an idiot and still be elected.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, Biden's pretty dumb, too. So before anybody thinks I'm just picking on Republicans, that's not my point here. We definitely have some dumb Democrats. In fact, it was a Democrat. It was a Democrat a few years ago, and I may need to look up the name. But this is so off topic, but I don't even care because it's so worth talking about. This Democrat was questioning military officials about stationing extra troops in Guam.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have heard this, or this congressman literally asked a military general, if we continue to put people on this base in Guam, isn't there a chance the island could tip over? And the general's looking at him like he can't believe that he said that, and no one else could believe it either. He's like, well, no, sir, it can't tip over. And he goes, well, I'm just thinking, if you keep adding people there, you add 10% more people, couldn't it just tip? As if the island's floating out there. What was his name? You haven't found it yet? Okay. All right, so we had to look up some details on this, the Guam tipping over thing.
Yep.
The Democrat that I was talking about, his name was Hank Johnson, and he said it in 2011, which is, okay, whatever, we get it. There's idiots in the House, there's idiots in the Senate. Every once in a while we have an idiot in the White House, like we have for almost 8 years now. But
we like to leave them there.
We do sometimes like to leave them there, and sometimes they like to throw fits and burn the Capitol down. So when they don't get their 8 years. But this guy, Hank Johnson, he's still in Congress.
Still in Congress.
He's still there because his constituents don't care enough that this guy doesn't understand how islands work. I mean, to me,
maybe he's an expert at something else.
He's not.
I don't know.
He's not. No, he's just some guy in Congress who doesn't know how islands work and keeps getting voted in by idiots who don't care that he doesn't know how islands work. I think it's ridiculous. So we strayed from Mark Cuban there, but suffice it to say that I am behind Mark Cuban on this. I think that making up lies, especially about something that killed so many people.
What was the lie?
Oh, Robert Kennedy is full of lies.
Well, I just hadn't seen what he said.
So he's giving equal breath to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Professor Peter Hotez. So instead,
The doctor I know is he's
He
creating
turned down.
vaccines, right?
he did, but he turned down the money to go on Joe Rogan's podcast to debate. And so then Joe Rogan and Elon Musk say, well, he doesn't want to debate because he knows he's lying.
Well, he thought
No,
about it for a little bit.
I know, but the problem is whenever you give people that will make anything up and present it as facts, when you give them the same breath that you give an actual scientist, you're treating them as if they're coming from equal positions, and they are definitely not. So this Robert F. Kennedy is no smarter than Hank Johnson, who doesn't understand that how islands work. Robert F. Kennedy may be dumber.
I mean, he wrote a book about vaccines, so I haven't read
Which
it.
one,
but she-
Hotez?
No, RFK Jr.
Oh, RFK Jr. I bet it's really good.
I'm
It's
just
definitely
saying.
a
I'm
page
sure
turner.
he's done some study.
It's interesting that you haven't read it. That's interesting. Yeah,
What?
it's almost like it wouldn't be worth reading.
I read a lot of the studies on vaccines.
It's not worth reading.
I'm trying to see what actual statements.
I'm vaccinated. My friend here is an anti-vax moron. So
I've
That's
gotten the
where we're coming
vaccine
from.
for everything except for COVID because
Oh.
I got COVID before the vaccine was available.
because you're an anti-vax.
No, I
moron.
got the disease before it was even out. Wasn't too bad. So I wasn't afraid of it.
But Ron DeSantis, we're back to Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
So and I'm going to put a picture of him up, and this is him seen holding in a fart. But he actually always looks like he's holding in a fart all the time, as long as he's not speaking. As long as his mouth's closed, it's like he's holding a fart back.
Oh.
It's ridiculous.
Hot bags of air.
Have you
Gotta
seen
hold
it?
in.
Like, all right, here's another example, and there's another one. He always looks like it. Always. I feel like we can't go a week without talking about Ron DeSantis. He comes up all the time. I know he's running for president, but come on.
Also, he kind of has to.
But I know, but we also already know that he's the runner-up GOP. Like, he's going to be second place behind criminal Donald Trump. That's already settled. I feel like it's settled. It was settled before he even entered the race. Number 2 was going to be DeSantis. Even if he didn't enter, he would have gotten the second amount of votes based on write-ins because he's the one that some people love, while there's still too many Republicans that love Trump to ever actually give enough
I
support.
don't
his
know.
way.
There's plenty of time between now and then.
There is a lot of time.
Got to wait and see what happens.
However, they're both idiots, and neither one of them make a really good impression, especially the more they talk. You notice how the more Trump talks, the dumber he sounds. The same thing's true with Ron DeSantis. Like, DeSantis, I actually thought,
that's the
I
same
used to
thing-
give him credit.
Same thing's true with Biden.
I know that with Biden.
Well,
But
you got to
with-
say it.
Okay, but I say Biden's stupid all the time. I'm not afraid to.
Okay.
At all. But Ron DeSantis, I actually was scared of him for a while, thinking, like, he's got these draconian policies, and he's like a seasoned politician. He's not. He stinks. He's terrible at public speaking.
He's better than Biden.
Well, saying somebody's better than Biden, when, the only thing Biden's better at is sizing up a coffin, because that dude's
Hey,
almost
you guys
dead.
keep voting in losers too. I mean, look at what's the guy's name that had the stroke?
So-
No, he had the stroke
So
before.
he's talking about Fetterman,
Fetterman,
and
that's
you
his
wanted
name.
Mehmet Oz, a charlatan,
a doctor. A doctor.
a snake oil salesman. He's not a real doctor, and you know it. I know that he
Wasn't
has
he
a
one of the
degree.
top-rated doctors in the world?
No, right. So when he did that, he was, and then he
Right.
stopped doing that, and then all he did was sell products that did not do what they said they were going to do. He's a snake oil salesman, and then he tried to sell the whole state of Pennsylvania on being a senator.
I would say he's still a smart guy.
So here's what I would say: you guys putting him and Herschel Walker and others like that up
Mhm.
was a big part of why you weren't able to take the Senate. Had you put a reasonable candidate against Fetterman, of course they beat him. The problem is Mehmet Oz was not a reasonable candidate.
But you put forth an unreasonable candidate also.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm saying
But
it's just dumb all around.
Ours was not quite as dumb.
I beg to differ. Have you
He
heard
won.
him speak recently?
He won.
I-
He can't really speak.
No, he can't.
But Ron DeSantis, we're back to Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
So and I'm going to put a picture of him up, and this is him seen holding in a fart. But he actually always looks like he's holding in a fart all the time, as long as he's not speaking. As long as his mouth's closed, it's like he's holding a fart back.
Oh.
It's ridiculous.
Hot bags of air.
Have you
Gotta
seen
hold
it?
in.
Like, all right, here's another example, and there's another one. He always looks like it. Always. Never ends. Idiot Ron DeSantis, he claims that Dodger Stadium was virtually empty for Pride Night. Now, of course, he wants to score points as, the culture war victory. Like, woo. And he actually went out and said that, the American public are tired of this. We're fighting back against the wokeness or whatever. The problem is their attendance rose on Pride Night. So their average attendance is 47,800.
Sure.
On Pride Night, they had 49,074.
I would,
That's more.
I
That's
would
a bigger
say,
number.
I would say it's a 1,200 people. I would say that's statistically insignificant.
So
it's
whereas
an average game. I would
so-
call that an average game, but
that definitely
But
wasn't a boycott.
you guys are being disingenuous
So hold
too
on,
because
is
you
Bud
guys
Light-
are going. Oh my God! It was a super packed stadium.
No,
but
hold
they
on.
celebrated.
hold on.
Okay.
Is Bud Light being hurt by your boycott?
100%.
Agreed. Was Pride Night at Dodger Stadium hurt by your boycott? It wasn't.
But see,
That's the thing, it
That's
wasn't.
the difference. I don't think anyone was really boycotting it.
Well,
You
he's
put
okay,
it
but
in the media.
But then it's even worse. He's pretending like they're boycotting.
No, he was
Like,
talking. So you guys are taking this out of context also. So what he was talking about is that it was virtually empty. If you go look and watch it, it was virtually empty. Not the whole game, but when they celebrated those
Oh,
nuns.
you mean at the end?
No. They celebrated the nuns. They did a
Oh, you mean
huge-
before the game?
Yeah, before the game. They
If
did a
people
big,
don't show up.
but that's my point. They didn't do it in front of the people. They did it an hour before the game. If you look at the pictures,
So I agree,
there's like
but-
8 people there. So they're still
There's
terrified.
definitely more
to
than
do
8
it.
people.
No, they're still
There's definitely-
terrified to
I'm
do it.
going to show the picture of that. There's definitely a lot more than 8 people. I've seen the pictures.
No, the picture I saw, there was like 2 people behind home plate and like 2 way up in the stands.
That's because the people that pay for those expensive seats aren't there that early.
But that's my point. Is like they were too afraid to do it right before or during the game.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that they do a lot of things that span out over a long period of time. Like Pride Night's not the only night they do that.
I don't disagree, but it's usually not over an hour before the game starts. Over an hour, no one's there yet, so they don't do anything.
Here's the thing: Dodger Stadium could not be farther from Florida. Ron DeSantis, you're not president right now. Shut up. He's just an idiot. This is my favorite story of the week. I've already covered on my my solo news channel.
Yeah.
I love this story so much, and I'm happy to share it with everyone now. A 16-year-old pocketed $50,000 for her award-winning discovery in the brains of people who died by suicide. Now, I'm going to show a picture of her. Huge beaming smile, and she deserves it because she is. I think it's fair to say she's a genius, and what she's doing is just incredible.
So she is still in high school.
She's in high school.
Okay.
She's not even out of high school.
See, I was thinking she was one of the people who.
No, she's
is
not even an early
16.
grad.
Yeah, I thought she was 16 and in college.
So she's phenomenal at certain things. Maybe she's not, and I don't know, but maybe she's terrible at grammar, or maybe
well, in certain
or
schools,
maybe
don't
she
like
doesn't
you
care
skip.
about math. Like maybe this is just her passion, and that she's super good at
Right.
it. Or she could come from a school that doesn't really have a path to graduate early.
Right.
Absolutely, that's possible too.
Right.
What I love though is that, often in the scientific community, especially if you go back a long ways, women in particular, their work would tend to get stolen. Like work on space. We knew what stars were made of because of a woman's math and her figuring it out, that it was largely hydrogen being fused into helium.
Is that the NASA women?
So the Hidden Figures one is different, but
Okay.
this is a woman who was working on her own. She was a professor, and she was white. Like those Hidden Figures were black, and they were being hidden because they were black.
Right.
But it's the same crime, just to a different group of people, right? So she sent her work off to this male colleague of hers,
Mhm.
and he published it. And even after it came out that she was the one that figured it all out, he got the credit, at least in the short term, right? We all know who she is now. I don't know her name, but I wouldn't know his name either. So
Yeah.
it is criminal sometimes the way that women especially can be treated in the world of science. I love the fact this 16-year-old's out here breaking down walls. So
It is impressive since women's brains are smaller.
wow.
Just kidding.
So this girl, she was donated brains from people who died by suicide by their next of kin. She also got some healthy brains donated by next of kins, and she did chemical analysis looking for traces of anything that was present in one and wasn't in the other. You could think of it the same way we're studying CTE in the brains of retired NFL athletes,
Right.
and we're finding that concussions cause this chemical to be prevalent in these brains, and then often they do die by suicide, or their mental health declines in other ways, maybe dementia, or you can think of a Muhammad Ali. We see different things crop up in these folks more often, and we're trying to figure out why. So what she did find was, and this is not going to be easy, cytokines, and those are things that create inflammation as part of your normal body's function, trying to fight off infections. But these cytokines, there's a specific inflammation that's affected with a specific protein in the brain known as Claudin 5. Now, Claudin 5 is usually found in the cells that make up your brain-blood barrier. If you don't know what that is, and I didn't until I read this article, and I still barely know, let's be honest.
I think basically your brain sits in a sac, and it
kind of does, but there's a
doesn't let
semi-permeable membrane
Right.
that is supposed to allow some things into the brain and not others. Well, some of these brains, particularly the ones who died by suicide, they're having higher peaks of this chemical, Claudin 5. If this is the kind of thing that you could test while people are still alive, we could maybe get a head start on helping people out.
Hopefully they don't have to like actually go into the brain to test it.
That's right.
Yeah,
Like CTE right now, we don't have a good way to test on a living person, but they're still working on that. This is another thing that we can work on and try to get better at. But I'm going to take a moment right now. Have you been affected by suicide in your life?
Yep.
Okay, I have too. I've had both a friend from the Navy. I've had people in my family. I have been affected by suicide.
Yep.
Whether it's the ideation or the actual act, and a deceased person. So if you have any sort of depression that would lead you to that place, we're going to post the number up here, but it's 988, and you don't have to call. You can actually text them. They'll just sit there and talk to you on text. They'll help you find resources. And honestly, I love this young girl, and I'm going to tell you her name in a minute because her name. She does deserve to have her name spoken. I love this girl, but I think if you take anything out of this segment, it would be if you know anybody that's struggling, give them this number. If you're struggling, go ahead and text it. They may can help you.
It's an easy number.
Absolutely, 988. And again, it's going to be posted on our screen as people are watching. So this is a difficult name. Natasha Kulviwat, and I hope I'm saying it right because she deserves to have her name said right, but that's her name. She's doing this groundbreaking research into the brains of folks who died by suicide, and I think that it's important that we celebrate some of those, especially young geniuses we've got, because there are too many walks of life where we, I think, don't prioritize young kids' brains enough. But she is kind of incredible.
Speaking of brains, I'm glad it said that she goes to Columbia University because I was kind of worried when they said she was donated brains.
Right.
If she was going to Harvard, I don't know if you remember last week, the article we talked about, the morgue that they have there has been selling body parts.
Right.
Yeah.
So this does seem to be all above board and done completely with the.
It's not garage science.
No, done with the knowledge and the cooperation of the next of kin, which is the best you could do for someone who's died by suicide, of course. But I would like to think that most of those folks who are dealing with such depression, if you could tell them that they could be studied, I think a lot of them would choose anyway to do that. If you could tell them that, look, this pain you're feeling, we might can help someone else in the future, I think they'd do it.
I think they're trying to pass a bill right now. If you want to donate your body to science, I think it's generally done when you go and get your driver's license. So you have to actively opt out now, or will.
I actually support it. That's going to be a controversial one, and I know that's one that I can't necessarily argue. If somebody told me that they don't like that idea, I don't have a good reason why they should.
Right, yeah. Some people want their body to be buried.
Part of it is obviously I am not religious. Religious folks, they may have customs or traditions that they want to follow. And that's why I wouldn't argue it. I don't have a good argument as to why they shouldn't continue with their family traditions. Yeah. If I ever missed part of the paperwork to donate myself to studying, I would be upset to know that my body just got wasted rotting in the ground as opposed to being used to study.
It depends too. I wish they could make it a little more selective. Like, I don't mind my body going to be donated for science and use it for whatever you want. But I do remember seeing an article about a young guy whose mom passed away and her body was donated to science. And he worked for years to try and figure out what his mom was used for. And when he finally found out his mom's body was used as a test dummy at an Army explosives test facility.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And so that is absolutely, not what she or the family signed up for.
Yeah.
And B, I think you can do that other ways. So I used to watch MythBusters,
Mm-hmm.
and you remember what they used to use all the time? They would use pig carcasses.
Yep.
Because as far as the animal kingdom,
Pretty close.
having the same skin type and mostly the same organs, our bodies get affected by things like explosions very similarly to pigs. And so they would use pig carcasses because you're not having to take a human and put their body through that. I say human, a deceased human. I like the pig idea better.
Yeah.
Than grabbing what was somebody's mom, dad, whatever. And
I mean, if you could just make that a check, sure, like any science or just
Right.
yeah,
it'd be nice.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to find a different way to do that. Our next story is a little weird. It came on Father's Day, and it kind of just an unfortunate Father's Day story. So the Braves, they had this player, Charlie Culberson. I say had because they DFA'd him. Do you know what DFA means?
I don't. I'm not.
Designated for assignment. So in baseball, for a major leaguer, if you run out of times they can send you back down to the minors, once you get designated for assignment, you're effectively fired. You can choose to go back to the minors, but most established major leaguers aren't going to do that.
I didn't know you could go back.
You can. They can push you back, but I can't remember how many times. 4 or 5 times they can do it, and then after that, you're done. So Charlie Culberson was beyond the point where you could just send him back and he was still under contract. So he could opt in or he could leave, and he's going to leave because that's what established major leaguers do. But see, they did it on Father's Day, and before you think that it's just because Charlie Culberson is a father and that's why I'm saying this, it's not. You see, that day at the ballpark, Charlie Culberson's dad was there to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. So a few hours before game time,
Oh, they didn't even wait till after the game?
they DFA'd him. His dad doesn't get to throw out the pitch.
Oh, he
They
didn't
actually
even get to?
They actually brought in another guy's dad
Whoa.
to throw out that pitch, which all just seems very, very heartless.
Now, I'd be curious, did they actually pull his dad, or did his dad say, no,
I don't know. I don't know
He
that.
may have said, I don't
Honestly,
want to do it if my son's not on the team.
I have not seen a story that gives me that much detail on that, but
I mean, if they cut him deep twice, then
yeah,
that's
isn't it awful? Oh my god! So I do want to show you a picture of Charlie Culberson seen here appropriately not wearing any team's logo.
That's kind of mean.
It's a little mean, but like he doesn't have a team.
Just got cut.
But he doesn't have a team. What do you want me to do? You put him in a Braves uniform?
Yeah.
That seems even more mean.
I mean, he was just in that.
He
uniform.
was, but he's not now, and they're the team that told his father to go take a hike and gave the ball to somebody else.
I mean, technically, he's still on the team till he gets picked up somewhere else.
No, he's a free agent.
Oh,
See,
okay.
he's not on a team.
Okay.
So anyway, there he is without a logo. You know how much I hate talking about Greg Abbott.
He's your favorite.
He's not. I'm going to put a picture of him here. This is him after he just rolled over a 4-year-old Hispanic girl's foot. That's why he's laughing. I don't know if you...
I don't know what picture you're showing.
He's laughing. He's all happy.
This picture?
The one there in the middle of us? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, not the one you're actually pointing at.
I was like,
Like, you were sort of pointing in the right direction because it's going to be like here between us. But, you know what I mean?
I can't see the picture.
So it's this picture here, it's right there. Yeah, it's... I know you can't see it. That's the thing, I edit. You just get to see it. But he's very happy, and he's very happy that he ran over a Mexican girl's foot.
I'm sure.
That's the point.
I'm sure he is.
That of course he would be. He signed a few new bills here in Texas, so obviously they're going to be really great for the people, right? No, they're not. They're not. So
Depends on which people.
instead of worrying about all the actual problems we have here in Texas, we've got a transgender athlete ban. So women's sports. They're calling it the Save Women's Sports Act, which is really ridiculous. And you have to compete in the designation of whatever you were born. So if a female at birth has to compete in female sports, and I would assume that means even if they're a trans man. So they've been on testosterone now for, let's say, 7 or 8 years, and you took out the women that were off of testosterone to add in men, people identifying as men that have been on testosterone now. It's really silly, and all you did was make the sport less fair when you were trying to make it fair. But that's not really what I really want to talk about the most. I want to talk a little bit about this labor regulation limit that we set. So we signed a new law that helps reaffirm the state as the exclusive regulator of commerce and trade in the state. The law targets local jurisdictions that have tried to enact their own regulations that are different from like the state.
Yeah.
So the law specifically affects ordinances that establish minimum breaks at work. In Dallas and Austin, for example, they have ordinances requiring construction workers to take 10-minute breaks every 4 hours due to the heat. Those are annulled. They don't exist anymore. So I know that on Sunday, it's supposed to be 105 degrees where we're at. On Monday, 104. You're telling me they're going to work out there in 105 degrees and they're not even guaranteed a break every 4 hours? That's silly. It's not silly. It's dangerous. We're going to kill somebody in this heat. I mean, I know a couple years ago we killed people in the cold, and that was also due to Republican policies. So I guess we're okay with
I would
killing
say
in the
it's dumb to get rid of this rule. I'll agree with that. However, it's not incumbent on the state. It's incumbent on the companies to make sure that their workers are protected. So I will say,
Well,
I think it's a stupid idea.
So it wasn't the state. It was local jurisdictions that said it.
No, but it was the
So
state that got rid of it.
why would the state need to undo that?
That's what I'm saying. I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's stupid, but it's still on the companies to protect their workers.
But it's literally just a middle finger to workers, which is, I get that's the Republicans' favorite sign. The favorite sign to workers is a middle finger, but there's no reason to do it except for the middle finger.
No, that's stupid. That's a stupid idea.
Then what is it? Why do it? Why not let Dallas enact some rules?
Because they don't want everyone enacting all their own rules. However, this is one that the
Show
state
me
should
where
do.
it's run rampant. Show me what they're protecting from. Because the truth is, there's not any examples of rules that they're getting rid of that matter. The only ones they're getting rid of are these ones that would help workers. Just like his recent bill that only allows him to overturn Harris County election results. He can just say Harris County was fake because they have over the population threshold.
Yep.
But they're the only county over the population threshold for that bill.
For now.
Because that's all he's doing is little culture war bullshit that mean nothing. All right, you didn't find anything useful in time. We're moving on.
All right.
So he also signed a bill that bans offices and programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion at public universities and colleges beginning in January of next year, or they lose all state funding. So we no longer are allowed to even have an office that would boost or be there to serve the diversity of your population, of your student population. That is asinine, and it's another one that serves no purpose except to say, see, look, I'm not woke either. It's just him competing with DeSantis to be the least woke governor in America.
It is a slap in the face to those universities.
Texas is leading the nation in ensuring our campuses return to focusing on the strength of diversity and promoting a merit-based approach where individuals are judged on their qualifications, skills, and contributions. So the problem is, they even said in there that we're going to focus on the strength of diversity, but we're not. Because later on in the same sentence, they say that it's just based on qualifications, skills, and contributions. So we're actively ignoring diversity in favor of qualifications, skills, and contributions. Now, if you want your admissions to only be merit-based, I actually don't have an argument for you. I'm not prepared to argue against it right now. I will say that we have put some population groups at disadvantages to try to get those same merits. However, at the very least, if you show me two test scores and one's higher than the other, I'm not going to call you a racist for taking the higher test score.
Right.
I'm not. What I will do is say, if you don't, all right, being colorblind is not actually the goal of civil rights. We have to acknowledge that we all exist and that we're coming together in a diverse culture. Being colorblind is actively the opposite of that. It's saying your race does not matter at all, and it just doesn't work that way. Color blindness is not the ultimate goal.
Right. I would say the ultimate goal is to have a mesh of everything.
That's right.
All colors.
That's called diversity.
Which is happening.
Right, except we're getting rid of the office that helps with that.
Well, there was no office to begin with. They're
No, yes, there are. Oh, yes, they do. That's why they're doing it. They definitely have DEI offices right now. There are DEI programs.
I thought it was saying it was preemptively banning them somewhere.
No. It's saying that like they're banned, but it doesn't happen until next year.
Oh, okay.
These schools definitely have DEI offices right now. that they have to disband or they lose state funding. I guarantee you look at Texas A&M, you can find their DEI.
Their argument is that the schools are favoring race over merit in most instances, and that DEI programs have not increased diversity.
So
if they're not actually increasing diversity, if they're not increasing the numbers, then what's the point of the office?
So there are still things to do within a diverse population besides increasing the number.
But the whole goal is to get that number up in those schools to increase
It's not the
diversity.
only goal.
So,
Not the only goal. No. So it's not. You could have, let's say you had, and in Texas this is a good example. So you could have a Muslim population on these campuses, and you do.
Right.
You have some students there that are Muslims, right?
mm-hmm.
But currently, especially in Texas, and in other in other, I would say especially Republican-dominated states, there is some heavy sentiment that will often keep their voices quiet.
I would beg to differ. I would say most Republican states are very welcoming to any group of people. You go to those left-leaning states, those big cities. If you're not one of them, then you're excluded.
So we're coming up on hurricane season, and our first one's looking to hit this week. That's kind of unfortunate. Thursday, Friday time frame is what they're saying. So it's actually the third tropical depression of the 2023 hurricane season, but it's the first one that we're looking to actually probably have a hurricane make landfall. But I guess now we know why Trump needs those nuclear secrets, right?
What do you mean?
Well, like whatever. So when he was in office, Trump thought why don't we just nuke a hurricane and it would stop the hurricane from, it was supposed to dissipate it.
I bet that would work.
It would not work.
You don't know that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who
tried
does. Tons of nuclear and climate scientists, or not
Have
weather.
Have they said it wouldn't work, or just said it's a bad idea?
No, the 100% they've said it wouldn't work.
Oh, okay.
However, in addition to that, they've also said that the
idea.
spread of nuclear material would be devastating for anyone within, probably on the globe. Anyway, we are looking at our first one coming, and right now, say Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is probably a good guess for where it might hit.
They're used to it.
They may be used to it, but it also could be pretty devastating,
Yeah.
of course. So anybody in that area, be sure you're paying attention to your local news.
Buckle down.
Yeah, keep your family safe. I'm not going to have a ton on this story. I don't think you will either because it's so new.
I don't have a ton on it, but
Yeah,
I
tell me what
I
you
was
do have.
listening all morning about it.
Were you?
I was listening to it on the radio while I was driving around. It is very interesting. So it's
Give me what you got on it.
it's they created this awesome submarine to go see, for visitors to go visit the Titanic down at the bottom of the ocean, and this spot is deep.
It's about 12,000 feet,
12,000
right?
feet, significantly farther than military submarines go.
Yeah.
You need some heavy duty equipment to get.
So
down
I
there.
was on a military submarine,
Yep.
and I can't tell you how deep we could go because that's still classified, and I won't say it. But I can tell you that 12,000 is so significantly deeper that I can't imagine the strain on the hull that you would experience, because as we dove, if you tied a string from front side to side of the hull,
you can watch that.
you could
sag.
watch it sink down. And I'm going to tell you right now, we only went a fraction of this deep.
12,000 feet is scary.
Absolutely.
But they source this out only to extraordinarily rich people, kind of like Richard Branson's selling flights to space.
Okay.
These people are selling submarine trips down to the
You
bottom.
go 12,000 feet up or down, I guess.
It was $250,000 a ticket.
Wow.
So I heard, I think there's 5 people on board. One of them's the richest man from Pakistan and his 19-year-old son. I can't remember who the others were, but these guys are all multi-millionaires and billionaires. They went down. There's no cable. It's way too deep to be attached to a cable to be retrieved or anything. So it's just a self-guided sub.
At 12,000 feet, you're looking at more than 2 miles.
Yeah.
Like, if you just want to think about it in miles, that's insane.
2 miles straight down.
Right, with the added pressure of every single foot. Because every foot you're adding roughly 0.4 pounds, right? Am I getting that right? So at 100 feet, you get about 40 pounds of pressure. So at 12,000, at 1,000 feet it would be 400. So at 12,000 now, you're at 4,800 pounds of pressure on the outside of anything down there.
If not more than that, yeah.
That's insane.
It's significant enough that there's no rescue vehicles that can go that deep. So there's no rescuing these guys. It's going to have to be them getting out on their own if it even happens. So at this point, they haven't They don't know exactly where they are. So even if they did have a rescue vehicle, they don't know where they are to get to them. So this morning when I was listening, I think they had 60 hours, an estimated 60 hours of air left. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they end up making it back.
So once again, as a former submariner, I just got to say, I hope they make it back. This sucks. I hope that they're not on permanent patrol, which is what we say about all the former subs that we've lost. And I wish them the best.
I'm curious if this was some sort of inside job. You know, I mean, you got the who's who of rich people down there. Maybe it was sabotage.
Okay, I wanted to talk about this just because I wanted to get your thoughts now after we've seen more video and more.
I haven't watched anything about that.
I have watched a lot. You haven't read anything or watched anything?
No.
Okay. So what are your thoughts right now on the Apple Vision Pro without seeing things then?
So I saw the release the day of.
Yes.
I thought it was pretty neat.
Yep.
Sounds really powerful, unnecessarily so since there's not much out for VR yet. I think it's kind of a bad idea, obviously, to make a $3,500 headset that no one can really use it for its potential yet. So why make one so powerful and so expensive that you can't really use it for its designed purpose?
I felt just like you.
Yep.
Until I watched a bunch of videos.
Okay. So
and now
awesome?
I've seen a lot of reviewers, and I have come full circle on this thing. I think Apple has the next killer product on their hands.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they're going to truly dominate the market at $3,500 a piece.
No.
What I think they're going to do is they're going to get some early adopters and some of the rich folks to go and pay for those, and then that will help bring some costs down.
Right.
And they'll find a way to pare some features down to help. They'll come out with a market. So this is the Vision Pro.
That was their announced plan, though.
Right.
Or Meta's announced plan with the Meta Quest Pro,
Yes.
right? Like that one, it was $1,500.
Yes.
But it wasn't designed for the
So let me
everyday
just
person.
tell you, their $3,500 product, it definitely costs a lot more than $1,500.
Yep.
However, it runs circles around the Meta Quest Pro.
Yeah.
So on pass-through coming in, I got to tell you, I've got a Meta Quest Pro sitting right here. If you can see it on camera, it's just sitting right here. I love it. This thing's better.
I got to say, though, that's a year old already. This hasn't even come to shelves yet.
I understand.
So
but
I would.
That's a year old in November, by the way.
Right.
It's newer than you think.
Well, it's a year old in November when it hits shelves.
That's right.
So it'll still be a year ahead.
Then Apple's probably 3 years old from
right.
You know what I mean, for development. You can't take development time because we don't know how long it's been.
Right. Well, I'm
Here's what I'll
saying
say,
that they
though.
could
Like,
have taken
For example, when I'm wearing that, if I try to look at my phone, I can see there's a phone-shaped thing in front of me,
Right.
and I can see that there's light coming from it. I can't read it. I can't see what's on it. People that have used this Apple Vision 1, they say you could actually actively just sit there and scroll and read text,
Yeah.
and you can read internet.
But I've heard the Quest 3 can do that,
Okay,
and that's only $500.
I haven't seen that it can do that, and nobody's actually used. So they haven't given it to
Yeah.
reviewers yet, like this.
Right.
Furthermore, there's a lot of reviewers that like to use the term magic.
Yeah.
There's a lot that don't. Vision Pro has been looked at by top reviewers. Marquez Brownlee, who is the tech reviewer on YouTube, obviously, when he looked at it, and he came out and specifically made a video and said, I don't like using the word magic. I hate it. He goes, people overuse it. And he goes, but
It feels like magic.
I've got to tell you, there's not much I can say about this other than it feels like magic. And for somebody who's used literally everything,
Mhm.
because there's not a tech company out there that doesn't let him use their product to sell it, that's high praise. And I can't wait to go into an Apple store. I can't buy one, but I'm going to go into an Apple store and I'm going to try one on and I'm going to play with it because I can. I don't have to spend any money for that.
You know what I can't wait for is all these third-party companies that are going to be taking these devices, making them better and cheaper over the
Yeah.
next couple of years, and then seeing what comes out of
I
that.
can't wait for the accessories,
Yep.
right? Like you get like a doll. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, just kidding. I definitely am. Definitely am. So next we have a teacher that got fired. She was fired from a private school after questioning her salary. Now, when I say questioning, what I mean was she signed a new contract, and if I'm not mistaken, they were for 2 years at a time. So she was re-upping for her new 2-year contract. She had only done 2 years, And she basically was asking, do these not go up at all? Because she was being paid the same amount she was for the first 2 years. And she knew other teachers that had some more tenure that had seen escalating contracts. Well, later on during that day, her boss gives her a call and says that God talked to him and said she's not passionate enough about her job and she needs to be fired. So go ahead and we're going to rescind that contract and you no longer work for us. So
they rescinded it or just didn't let her sign a new one?
No, she had already signed it.
Oh, okay.
She'd already signed it. They rescinded it. Now, I will say that she does have some recourse here because what they did is not entirely legal. So most states are at-will employment. That means that for the most part, you can quit for any reason, they can fire you for any reason.
Right.
But there are reasons that they can't fire you for, almost always to aid the employee, not the employer. And this case, the covenant of good faith appears to have been violated since it was more likely a result of her questioning the low salary than an act of God, right? So it's very hard whenever you start talking about talking to God. You know, we can put Susan Bates in prison for talking to God about killing her children, but we can't put you in prison for talking to God about firing your employee for some reason, because that's considered reasonable, I guess. I don't see it that way. Do you have any thoughts on this? No?
I don't know what I'm curious what their real reason was. You know,
the real reason was that she dared ask about the pay.
Well, that's what she's saying, but I don't know.
You think they have a better, more pure reason?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm just
got it. Good.
Interested in seeing what comes up.
Good. We're still on the same page then.